I'm not entirely sure, even though she's one of our longest serving ministers in cabinet, one of the longest serving NEC members of the ANC, I just don't know whether she has the necessary support to actually take her over the line.
Oscar, it is being said that a name is being put forward by the RET faction in the ANC. Is that so? And why her name for this faction?
Look, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know if it is really an RET name, because we hear all kinds of rumors going around. We hear Gwede Mantashe himself is also having ambitions. We know that Mkhize and Paul Mashatile saw themselves also ascending to a higher position. And of course, Didi Mabuza, as the deputy president, would want to ask the question, if Ramaphosa is not going to come back, what's wrong with me? Why can't I take over? So there's a number of names that is in the pot. I don't think that it is necessarily, her name is necessarily that of the RET faction, because Ace Magashule also has his own ambitions. He wants to avoid going to prison. And one of the sure ways he can do that is indeed to be elected president of the ANC and subsequently president of the Republic, as we saw Zuma did to avoid prosecution and so on and so forth. So look, it's all up in the air. I think what the RET faction, however, if indeed there is still such a thing as an RET faction, they would want to put up a credible individual that is appealing to the public and that can be seen as a good alternative to Cyril Ramaphosa. Unfortunately, I just don't see that person.
And that is the big question now. You have mentioned a couple of names and we have heard them before. And the big question then is there someone on the horizon that can really and confidently oppose Ramaphosa?
Look, you know, it's like coming from the anti-apartheid struggle and some of the organizations, the argument that I have put forward is that it is time for the Rapu generation. You know, we had Rapu, who was a former DDG in Foreign Affairs. He's now being ambassador to Paris and so on. But I say Rapu generation because he represents a generation that was just after the Peter Mokaba generation. And that generation, which is people like David Makhura, people like Cassel Mathale, people like Andries Nel, Fébé, Potgieter, and so on and so forth, and a host of that layer, I am arguing that their time has arrived. We cannot talk of a successor to Ramaphosa and still talk about those geriatrics that are older than 65 in the organization. I mean, you have a president, a former president of the United States, Barack Obama, who is already on retirement and he is only in his late 50s. And he served 2 terms in that country. Cameron in the UK, also still very young. We see mid-30-year-olds in Scandinavian countries, in New Zealand and so forth, taking over. And Africa is the only continent that is still dealing with geriatrics, fighting amongst themselves to still want to rule. And I think the young element within the ANC needs to step up and come to the fore and really say our time has arrived.
If I put you in a corner and put a gun to your head and say you must name someone now, who would you like to see if there is a change going into this position?
I think that a person like David Makhura, a person like Ronald Lamola, those are the kinds of names that I would want to see coming into the top 6 of the ANC. I think that a chairperson could be a Zamani Saul from Northern Cape, who is an exemplary leader and premier in that province, to give that sort of guidance as the chairperson of the ANC. But I think a deputy president, a deputy secretary would be a Fébé Potgieter. who has also earned her stripes. And of course, the former minister in the presidency, she was also the former Minister of Small Business Development. I think she has a bright future ahead of her, young, capable. So those are the kinds of names, Isaac, that I think we shouldn't be afraid to actually elect young people, because they will step up to the plate.